Have you ever shrunk a browser window and watched the text reflow? It seems so simple, so automatic. A word just moves down to the next line. But what happens when the text isn't English? What happens when there are no spaces between words, or when the language is written from right to left? That simple automatic process suddenly becomes one of the most fascinating and complex challenges in web typography. Hello, I'm Fuqiao, and I lead the World Wide Web Consortium's internationalization activity. Our job is to ensure that web technologies work for everyone, regardless of their language, script, or culture. Today, we're taking a high-level look at the diverse strategies for breaking text at the end of a line. At its core, line breaking depends on two factors. First, whether words or syllables are separated in the text and how. And second, whether the system wraps whole words, syllables, or individual characters to the next line. Let's start with the familiar. Wrapping text by words. Most European languages use spaces to separate words. When a line gets too long, the browser looks for the last space and moves the next word down. This same principle applies to many other scripts, like Devanagari used for Hindi and Arabic. Of course, with Arabic, the text flows from right to left, so when it wraps, the new line still starts on the right. But what if there are no spaces? Languages like Thai, Lao, and Khmer are written without separating words. Here, browsers can't just look for a space. They need a dictionary. The browser analyzes the text and uses linguistic rules to identify word boundaries. As you can imagine, it's not always 100% perfect. Sometimes the definition of a word itself can be subjective. Let's move on. Some writing systems don't wrap by the word, but by the syllable. Tibetan is a great example. Each syllable is followed by a small mark. Line breaking in Tibetan happens right after this mark. It's preferable to keep a whole word together, but breaking at any syllable is perfectly acceptable. Modern Korean text uses spaces between words, but authors can choose to wrap either by the word, like English, or by the syllable, which is each character. Syllable-based wrapping can be very useful for creating justified text, which is common in East Asian typography. And finally, we have systems that wrap by the character. Japanese is a well-known example. In Japanese, lines can break between almost any two characters, regardless of word or syllable boundaries. This gives a lot of flexibility, especially in narrow columns like in newspapers. However, there are still complex rules. For instance, you generally can't start a new line with a closing punctuation mark, like a period or a closing bracket. Beyond these broad categories lies a world of special rules. Hyphenation in German is different from English. Some scripts, like Ethiopic, traditionally used a special word space character instead of a regular space character. And it allows for breaking after any character. And there are even more dynamic rules. In traditional Tibetan, if a line break leaves a single syllable before a punctuation mark called a shade, that shade actually transforms to a different character on the new line to indicate a continuation. And in Javanese, if a line breaks before a specific vowel sign, a ghost of that sign is placed at the end of the previous line to aid readability. It's the same character in memory, but it's drawn twice on the screen. So, that simple line break isn't so simple after all. Browsers and standards have to account for all this diversity. This is why the work we do at the W3C is so vital. If you found this interesting, you can read our full article on the W3C website, linked in the description below. Thanks for watching.